Namaste everyone, as we are really looking into the life of Jesus and the beginning of Christianity and the teachings itself. So as we all know, in the New Testament of the Bible, this whole idea about Jesus where he was for nearly 18 years, they are completely silent. So between his age of 12 and 13, there is no detail or there is no actual any account of where Jesus lived or where he was in that time, in that period. And there is also a question mark on whether even to me Jesus died or ever died on the cross, or whether he survived the crucifixion and escaped from Jerusalem with the help of friends to finally settle back in India as an itinerant. Because when you think of Jesus as the divine incarnation, the Son, or the descent of the higher supreme consciousness, or the Father, the Creator, it's quite hard to believe that he would have just let himself die on the cross. Now, looking at the Natha Yogis, the Nath tradition in India. So the Natha Yogis, they claim that Jesus and his name was Sri Eesa Natha, and the word Eesa, word Isai, or that really comes from this title or the name he was given as a Nath Sadhu. So the Jesus, he was known as Sri Eesa Natha, as one of the great Nath Sadhu and one of our great scholar Bipin Chandrapal, a great Bengali educator and patriot. He writes, it is also their conjecture that Jesus Christ and his Eesa Nath are one and the same person. He published, so Bipin Chandra, he published an autobiographical sketch in which he revealed that Vijay Krishna Goswami, a renowned saint of Bengal, told him about spending time in the Aravalli mountains in Rajasthan. This for me is quite interesting because when I was a Nath Sadhu, I traveled across Aravalli mountains and visiting many ashrams and quite a few places where they believed that the Christ consciousness, the power of the Christ as a Nath Sadhu, the energy is still there, and lots of sadhus still worship him or worship Eesa Natha with a group of extraordinary Nath Yogis. They spoke to him about Eesa Natha, whom they looked upon as one of the great Nath Yogis. When Vijay Krishna expressed interest in this great Guru, they read to him his life as recorded in one of his sacred books, the Nath Namavali. So there is actually a great book, Nath Namavali, which details life of Jesus Christ or life of Eesa Natha. It was the life of him whom the Goswami knew as Jesus Christ. Now, one of the Western historians, the Kirsten, first turns to a Russian journalist, Nikolai Notovich, who visited Ladakh in early 1880s, and wrote a book called The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ. Notovich discovered the existence of certain ancient scriptures in the monastery of Hermes in Ladakh about the mysterious prophet Eesa, whose life appeared to be similar to the stories of Jesus, the Nazarene. According to these scriptures, at the age of 14, Eesa, who was born in Israel, came to Sindh in India, and from there he travelled through the Punjab to Jagannath Puri, where he learned the Vedas for 6 years. Later he travelled via Nepal to Ladakh, where he studied Buddhist scriptures. Now here is the relevant portion from this Nath book known as the Nath Namavali. This book has a little story or detail of the Eesa Nath or the life of Jesus. So it details that Eesa Nath came to India at the age of 14. So he was 14-year-old. Sort of it makes sense, as he exiled around 12. So it might have taken him that long to get to the ashram or join this Nath tradition. After this, he returned to his own country and began preaching when he was around 30. Soon after, his brutish and materialistic countrymen conspired against him and had him crucified. After crucifixion, or perhaps even before it, Eesa Nath entered Samadhi by means of yoga. So this is sort of really explains, when Jesus or the Christ was hung up onto the cross, which is one of the most brutal way to actually give death punishment to people back then. So he entered Samadhi. In Samadhi, your body goes into a total ease or a state of freeze where the body does not actually experience any pain. Your soul is not in it, your senses are not in it. So you are in a glimpsing experience of the divine, the cosmic consciousness, where there is no pain, there is no suffering, or we have no connection to the body. Even there is lots of modern research has been done where the breath, heartbeats, everything stops. Even the metabolic reactions, that the activities stop in our body. So our body can be claimed to be dead at that point. So the Jesus must have taken or took samadhi at that point when they were hanging him on the cross. So in that way, we believe that Jesus actually never died during this process of crucifixion, which gradually makes sense because after 3 days he awakened or he returned back into the body, and many people have had the sighting in so many stories. Seeing him thus, the Jews presumed he was dead and buried him in a tomb because he was in samadhi. His body was frozen into samadhi. There was no breath, there was no heartbeat. So people assumed that he was dead and they buried him. And in the story in this book, we're talking from the Natha Yogi, it explains that at that point when he was taking into the samadhi, or when he was into the tomb, he was into the grave, one of his great guru, known as Sanatana, he was in a deep and very profound meditation, and he experienced or he realized what was happening with his disciple Eesa or Jesus. So in his astral body, he reached to Eesa, and he helped him to also change his body into very light as one of the yogic siddhis, and he awakened him back into the life, back into his body, and he flew across and he came to Israel, and then gradually he returned back to India with his disciple Jesus. So the day of his arrival was marked with the thunder and lightning for the gods, as they were angry with the Jews, and the whole world trembled. When Sanatana arrived, he took the body of Eesa from the tomb, woke him from his samadhi, and later led him off to the sacred land of the Aryans. Eesa then established an ashram in the lower regions of the Himalayan mountains and established a new cult of the Lingam, so the Savit branch of Hinduism, where we worship Lord Shiva as the form of Lingam. This last assertion is supposed by two of the relics of Jesus, which are presently found in Kashmir. One is his staff, the stick, which is kept in the monastery of Eesa Mukhan and is made accessible to the public in times of catastrophe, such as floods or epidemics. The other is the stone of Moses, a Shivlinga that had belonged to Moses and which Jesus brought to Kashmir. The linga is kept in the Shiv temple of Bij Behara in Kashmir. 108 pounds in weight. If several people put one finger on the stone and recite the Bij mantra Ka over and over, it will rise 3 feet or so into the air and remain suspended as long as the recitation continues. Shiva means one who is auspicious and gives blessings and happiness. In ancient Sanskrit, the word Ka means to please and to satisfy. That which Shiva does for his worshippers. I have met 2 people, this is in the story, who have raised the stone of the Moses. One of them said that the number required to raise the stone relates to their spiritual development, that he had raised it with only 3 others. It is no wonder, though, then that Sri Eesa said, I and my Father are one, and that hath seen me hath seen the Father. John. For those words can be summoned or summarized up into the mantra Soham, that I am the Son, I am the individual consciousness, and I am also the divine consciousness. I am that, I am the higher, the cosmic consciousness. Other yoga teachings of Jesus are recorded in the Gospels. He was speaking as a yogi when he said, I came forth from the Father. and I am come into the world again. I leave the world and go to the Father. This is quite similar to Krishna says, every time the humanity needs me, I am born. I take birth into this body to help, and then I transcend back into the cosmic consciousness. Yoga is our way of return. The capacity for return is innate in us. Just as it was said of Jesus that he knew that the Father had given all things unto his hands, and that he was come from God and went to God. So here it also says, as in yogic sort of teachings, we believe that the teachings of yoga were given to us by the divine, the cosmic consciousness, to live, to be happy, and to attain the divinity, higher cosmic consciousness. He further also said that, behold, the kingdom of the God, the divine, is within you. Luke 17:21. So this is again another similar that we in Hinduism, in Upanishads, we believe that the divine is within us. We just need to behold, we need to attain it, we need to realize it, we need to meditate on it. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth, which is again quite similar to the cosmic consciousness of Shiva. Shiva is the auspicious, the divine, the spirit. Also in yoga we believe that the Purusha is the individual spirit, and then the Paramatman, the Iswara, is the higher or the cosmic spirit. And we must worship to the divine in its pure essence. Only yogis say such things, sort of the teachings looking at the Jesus, his teachings in Bible and these testaments. The true meaning that consciousness, yoga is a restoration of our original consciousness or self-realization, or which Jesus says, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. So it attains that before the world was, there was a divine, as in a Sankhya philosophy of creation, there was a divine or the higher consciousness, the Iswara, then we have the Akasa, the ether, the prana, and the individual consciousness from which everything manifests. We are just a little evolutes of the divine or the cosmic consciousness. So really here, before the world existed, we consciously knew that we were one with the divine, the part of the infinite being. And this is where yoga, or to me the Christian concept of spirituality, takes us to become one with the divine, with our love, with our surrendering to the higher or the cosmic consciousness. Saint Augustine wrote in the 4th century, the identical thing that we now call the Christian religion actually existed among the ancients and has not been lacking from the beginnings of the human race until the coming of Christ in the flesh, from which moment on the true religion which already existed began to be known as Christian. So the teachings were there as the Sanatana, the ancient or the eternal teachings. But with the Christ or the Christ consciousness, it got the name of Christianity. Similarly, like in Hinduism, we have Jainism, Buddhism as they come out of the teachings. Earlier, St. Paul also had written that the Christian gospel was that which has already been taught throughout the whole world, which was preached to every creature which is under the heaven. Authentic original Christianity is not actually new, but eternal in a sense, embracing the ancient wisdom that has existed from the beginning of the world. All master teachings of humanity, including Jesus the Christ, were revivers of that wisdom, reminders of what was at that time either lost or almost extinguished. It seems quite similar to Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that I have taught these teachings to many, many great people as and when they needed, including the Lord Son itself. So these teachings existed. When we consider the foregoing facts, it is only reasonable to conclude that the following of Jesus involves the following of Sanatana Dharma, the eternal life, living virtues or the concepts. And the practice of Sanatana Dharma, yoga, is Soham Sadhana. I am that divine, I am that thyself. I am the Purusha, the Atman, and I am also the Paramatman. the divine, the higher cosmic consciousness. Sanatana Dharma, the eternal religion or the faith, the belief system, the living, righteous living, is the unanimous spiritual vision and beliefs of the great saints and liberated masters found throughout the world. Whatever the religious tradition is, which they lived and taught, because it was first expressed in the Bharatvarsha, the Indian subcontinent, it is often considered a synonym of Hinduism. But it actually much more than that, including our yoga. Actually, the roots are in Hinduism, but it's more of attaining the self-realization, being universal and beyond any cultural conditionings. To me, that is what Sanatana Dharma. So let's hope this Christmas brings us all into this connectedness where we all can see that each and every belief system, the spiritual living, these beautiful virtues, either we're looking into Bhagavad Gita, Bible or Quran or any of the Hindu scriptures, Yoga Sutras, Upanishads, they bring us together, they connect us to our heart, to our humanity or the union, the oneness that leads us all forward into this cosmic conscious evolutionary journey. Let this Christ consciousness, the joy or the bliss to be manifesting in each one of our life. Amen. Om Shanti 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 Om.